Last semester, we took a project-based, hands-on unit study approach to what we were learning as a family, and it was so much fun. I can't wait to tell you about it. To outline our semester, we went with the Gather Round unit on entrepreneurship. Now, this is actually meant to be done over 20 days, 20 lessons, but we stretched it out over an entire fall semester, and it was so great. And I felt like we really needed that time because we wanted to be hands-on project applying this in different ways. So stick with me. I'm going to show you through that and give you some ideas of things you might want to use also, along with books that we read and different things. We kicked the fall semester off with my twins' birthday. They have always talked about wanting to own a restaurant and naming it Twin Turf. So we made this dream come to life for them. We put up different boxes like a counter, we put up a menu, we created a menu, me with them. I had them help me on Canva create this menu, and then for their birthday, we invited their friends over and they took orders and they served the food. My husband and I made the food from like inside our house and then passed it out the window. It was just so much fun. We came up with a logo, all of those things. Through the lesson, Rebecca Spooner in the entrepreneur lesson has you come up with like websites and different things too. So a lot of it focused around that idea of them owning a restaurant because that's something they want to do. And so that's for my twins, but I have two other boys as well. My kids were aged 6, 9, 9, and 10. And so this worked really well for everyone. The 6-year-old was on the young side, but it was okay. We still managed to find something he would be interested in and kind of work on that. I run the Minnesota Homeschool Mom Retreat. So I was going through a lot of this myself too, and able to show them how these things work in a real life business situation too, like my actual websites and how I run all these things, advertisement. Oh, it's kind of a lot, but it was so fun. And if you don't have a business, I would encourage you to kind of create something like this that your family can be working on together. There are so many lessons that go through all of it. It was really fun. So let me tell you a little bit more about the Gather Round unit and how it's set up. Each day you're going to learn about someone who is an entrepreneur, was an entrepreneur. It talks about like their childhood and how they got started, where the idea came from, how they progressed that idea, and where they are now. So we actually got to learn about like Elon Musk, the founders of Google, Amazon. We learned about this mom who created like the Johnny Jumpers and how she didn't even really like patent that and get it going until I think she was in her 70s. And so it was really fun. Martha Stewart was in there. It was really fun to learn about all of these people and how they got started. You learn about a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks, a lot of tenacity to push forward. So we got to do a lot of character development as well. Now, in the middle of the chapter, it'll talk about a specific thing with each one, like advertisement. How did this group find ways to advertise? Oh, there was one about like this lobster company out in probably Maine or something too. And that was really interesting. Just how like they wanted to start one thing, but how that morphed into different things as they saw where the need was to actually get good lobster to people. So I really like that too, how you don't necessarily have to start where you are going to end because those things will shift and change. And I thought that gave the kids a lot of permission to just find a starting point on something that they're passionate about, but then like, it's okay if that changes because that's happened with me a lot. So maybe I just appreciated that. Okay, anyway, middle of the chapter, you're going to talk about something like that, like advertisement. And then the end of the chapter ends with Rebecca Spooner talking about the kingdom focus. So we've learned about this entrepreneur, we've learned about what the world says on how to grow your business, and then we learn about, well, if you're going at it from a kingdom perspective though, sometimes we do things that don't make a lot of sense. Sometimes we price things lower, we make things more available, we have different ethics, we don't worry or stress about things because we trust God. There was just so much here that I valued. It's largely, I've followed Rebecca Spooner since before she started Gather Round. And it's largely why I remain with Gather Round, is because I love her heart and the way that she teaches these kingdom-minded perspectives, and somebody that I just have really respected and learned a lot from. And I'm so excited to bring my kids along and encourage them in those ways too. So each chapter was really broken into those 3 different ways. Now we probably only did I want to say like a lesson a week, sometimes 2 lessons a week, because we were doing things on our own. Also, alongside of that, we also read some books. We read Lawn Boy by Gary Polson. I will say my 10-year-old loved this book. It's about a boy who starts a lawn mowing service, and it gets like out of hand, and he's got like a tons of other people working under him. He's mowing lawns for like the whole community. It takes place in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, which is fun because we live in Minnesota and we've been there. We know where that is. There are 2 things I would say I was glad I was reading it out loud to my kids. One of them was like the original lawn man in the neighborhood ran away with one of the wives. It was a sentence. I like skipped the sentence, but that's why there was like so much business available for this kid, because they're the men in the community no longer trusted hiring other men. Like, why did we have to put that in there? And then at the end, they're at a wrestling match and the women are dressed inappropriately, and it gives like a sentence to that. Gary Polson sometimes adds some things like that. There's another one that Hatchet talks a lot about like his parents' divorce and the reason they split up, and sometimes I just wish those things weren't in there, but sometimes it brings up like good reading points. But I just wanted you to know that that's in there. The other book, and this is our 2nd time reading this one, is The Toothpaste Millionaire. This one's completely fine. This is a great book to read. It is fantastic. The Toothpaste Millionaire is about these kids that discover how cheap it is to make toothpaste, and so then they start like a whole business off of it, and they undercut all of these companies, which also gives you the like conversation about like how much are you going to charge for things and how does inflation work, different things like that. This is a really fun read. There's a lot of math included. Like, why do we need to learn math? Well, here's the reasons, because you have to be able to figure out how much you need to charge for something to stay afloat. So I really like this one. Advertisement also, it's all included in there. So this is definitely a book I think you should read to your kids. Our project throughout the entire thing, while my kids were working on these different things of like when they would fill out worksheets, or we were talking about ideas, might have been based on like my oldest son wanted to do like a handyman business and he named it, or like I said, my twins wanted their restaurant. They were also learning from their grandpa how to do some woodwork and carvings of like snowmen and trees, even designing some of those things, which was really fun. And so once a week they were going over to their grandpa's to work on these projects. And at the end of the semester, we wrapped it up with doing a joining the craft sale in town, and they sold their items there, where they were responsible for the money. They were responsible for talking with the customer, hearing what customers liked and what wasn't selling so well, so that we could consider it again for next year as well, which was so fun. And it's so cute to see them do these things. They enjoyed that time with their grandpa. They learned a new skill. We had to work on like even pricing for these items and what that would be. It was so fun. We just had such a good time doing this. So even if you're just making, like my youngest son just made pot holders actually and sold them at the craft show. Even if it's just something like that, I would really encourage you to do a lesson like this, to be building up inventory and join a craft show locally and just sell the items like one time so that they get that experience. Because when we have our kids doing something like this, when they're working with their hands, they are gaining so much confidence in their own abilities. And that is so important for the next generation to be learning. Like, you can do this. You can learn how to do it and learn to do it well. We watched a lot of videos about people who were doing this, got a lot of ideas, paid attention. It was really fun. One last thing I wanted to mention is that Gather Round during this time came out with their beta testing for their math curriculum, and I had my son join that. He already kind of wanted to start a new math curriculum, and so I thought this would be a really great example of entrepreneurship doing beta testing. And so he has been using that. I will talk more about the math curriculums that we have been using in an upcoming video. Make sure you are subscribed, or I'll link it down below so you see when it comes out. Until then, you might want to check out this video also. I hope this was really helpful, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.